Hi, I'm Daniela, and today I'll be talking about sunscreen use and its impacts on marine ecosystems. This presentation is based on the article Sunscreen UV Filters to Protect Us, Part 2, and is published in the International Journal of Women's Dermatology. The authors are dermatologists, public health professionals, and researchers, and their goal was to examine how UV filters protect human health while also evaluating their potential environmental impacts. A little bit of background information. Every year, millions of people use sunscreen to protect themselves from harmful UV radiation. It plays an essential role in preventing sunburn, skin cancer, and premature aging. However, these same chemicals can enter marine ecosystems and impact aquatic life. So while the sunscreen protects us, it may also pose risk to the environment. The goal of this research was to understand how UV filters affect marine ecosystems. The authors conducted a literature review and used databases from the National Institute of Health, the FDA, and the EPA. They combined both field and laboratory studies that included experiments on marine organisms and data about the concentration of UV filters in water and sediments. For their analysis, they compared the data to evaluate the harmful effects it has on different marine species. The results are the following. Sunscreen is effective at protecting humans from harmful UV radiation. However, certain UV filters can negatively impact marine life. These effects include coral bleaching, endocrine disruption in fish, developmental abnormalities in coral larvae, and even potential neurological effects in some species. In addition, these chemicals can accumulate in sediments and organisms, which could mean that their impacts may persist long term. One of the most direct outcomes of this kind of research is policy change. Some regions, like Hawaii or Palau, have already banned specific UV filters, such as oxybenzone and octinoxate, due to their environmental impact. Here's a picture of a typical sunscreen that is used on children, and you can see the active ingredients include oxybenzone and octinoxate. Maui County actually has banned the sale of non-mineral sunscreen altogether since October of 2022. At the same time, there is a growing interest in reef-safe sunscreen products. Recently, I went to Costco and I found some mineral sunscreen that only had titanium dioxide and zinc oxide as active ingredients. The article highlights the need for better environmental monitoring and clearer regulations. It also mentioned how the FDA has not yet approved many eco-friendly alternatives. This emphasizes the importance of public education so consumers can make informed choices. Here are some examples from the table that was presented in the article with currently UV filters that are in use all over the world. Some of the chemicals like oxybenzone and octinoxate are associated with harmful effects on marine organisms. The non-grace chemicals may be effective for sun protection, but still pose environmental risks. At the same time, the UV filters found in mineral sunscreen are classified as generally recognized as safe and effective, or grace. For the critique, overall, the study has several strengths. It provides a comprehensive review and it combines findings from many different studies. It also clearly identifies gaps in current policy and environmental management. However, there are some limitations. The study relies entirely on existing research and does not include our original experiments. In addition, many of the studies were conducted under laboratory conditions, which may not fully reflect real-world environments. Because of these limitations, there is a clear need for further research. Future studies should include more field-based data to validate laboratory findings. Long-term studies are also needed to understand how these chemicals affect the ecosystem over time. In addition, comparing different UV filters under real-world conditions could also help identify safer alternatives. In terms of bias, the article appears to have a relatively low risk overall. The author's medical and clinical background influenced the focus towards human health and skin protection. And while the environmental risks are recognized and the regulatory gaps are highlighted, the emphasis remains on maintaining effective UV protection. So in conclusion, sunscreen plays a critical role in protecting human health. However, some UV filters can negatively impact marine ecosystems. And as a result, environmental regulations are beginning to promote safer alternatives. Moving forward, the key challenge is finding a balance between protecting human health and preserving environmental systems. Thank you, and please let me know if you have any questions.